Let's get in further perspectives now. With me from New York is Irina Suckerman, who is the CEO of a security consultancy company, Scarab Rising. Thanks very much for being here with us. Your reaction to these images that we are seeing coming in from Taiwan, the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is now in Taipei. A lot of speculation that has been doing the rounds in the run-up to this visit over whether or not she will be going ahead with this visit to Taiwan. The significance of the very fact that she has gone ahead, and what would this mean for the tensions between Washington and Beijing going forward?
Well, this is the highest level legislative visit since 1997. That alone is highly symbolic. The second issue is that China failed to deter the visit through what appeared to be a campaign of psychological pressure, trying to exploit the tensions within the Democratic Party between the President of the United States and the Speaker during the midterms, as well as between Democrats and Republicans. Again, in light of the upcoming elections, a number of Republicans are so critical of the administration and of the Democrats that anything that the Democratic Party does, they view as negative, even if it is in the national security interests of the U.S. But none of those voices prevailed. Ultimately, China was not willing to carry out its military threats, precisely because ultimately it does not want a war, nor is it prepared for one. And so its attempt to project strength and to deter the trip from happening failed, and in fact undermined its own image regionally and globally. This trip is a very important, significant step of asserting friendship with Taiwan for the United States, and as well as sending a signal to China that U.S. will pursue the policies that are in its best interest.
Rita, what do you make of the statements that have been coming in from the United States, specifically on this visit to Taiwan by Nancy Pelosi? Earlier, Joe Biden had said categorically this is not a good idea. The statements have been sending out a very mixed signal, which many would argue has been perceived as a sign of weakness by Beijing.
That's exactly correct. And I think Nancy Pelosi, by continuing with the trip anyway, understood that there is also a certain risk involved in showing the split between the executive branch and the legislative at the time of tensions. But at the same time, I think ultimately the idea of showing a symbolic level of support to Taiwan before the elections prevailed over those considerations. The Democratic Party stands to lose a lot of seats in the House, possibly even the Senate. And this was a way of showing that the Democrats are also understand the risks and the threats to U.S. security and are just as concerned about them as the Republicans.
Irina, let me also ask you for your assessment of Beijing's statements so far in the run-up to this visit by the U.S. House Speaker to Taiwan, and how do you expect Beijing to respond now that this visit has gone ahead?
Well, the use of military threat was clearly psychological manipulation aimed at the isolationist movement in the United States that has actually affected both the left and the right. But the reality is China's negative role, China's negative image in world affairs has taken precedence over those considerations. And I don't think many analysts seriously were concerned about the risks of a military threat, not even the Pentagon that has warned of a possible escalation. Pentagon has not assessed China as ready to move towards any serious military moves in the region at this moment. I think the opposition to Pelosi's visit was more of a political and diplomatic concern than a military one. Currently, the risks now, after it's obvious that the military threats are not going to materialize, potential economic repercussions, potential sanctions against Pelosi herself in not being able to visit China, potential statements by Chinese officials. But at the end of the day, China is still quite interdependent economically with the United States. And as we have seen, after U.S. levied sanctions against Russia, Chinese investments into Russia fell by 50%, which shows a level of concern for losing U.S. investments and and being frozen out of the U.S. Financial system, despite all the efforts to undermine U.S. financial system through the use of digital currency. China is simply not there yet. So whatever reaction to this visit is going to be very limited, very targeted, and will not have wide repercussions for the U.S. interests overall.
Right, Irina, I request you to just stay with us. I also want to get in our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who has been getting us the latest from New York. Susan, now that the visit has gone ahead, tell us more about what we expect to unfold over the next few hours. What is on agenda? Do we expect a meeting with the president, Tsai Ing-wen?
So we do know that Nancy Pelosi did arrive just shortly. She was being briefed at the airport. She's waved at delegates, and there were a number of dignitaries on the tarmac to welcome Nancy Pelosi. There were signs all over Taipei, and also a big hologram welcoming Nancy Pelosi on the tallest building in Taipei as well, you know, really signifying this is important for Taipei and for Taiwan, you know, signifying the importance of this, although, you know, the trip is meant to be highly symbolic. And we, you know, the issue is, while a lot of it has been playing out publicly in real time regarding, you know, whether Nancy Pelosi should go or not, whether this should be an official visit or it should be taken off the itinerary, that part has been very public and there's been widespread discussion. But the part that we really haven't heard much about is what Nancy Pelosi will be doing in Taiwan besides this symbolic support that she thought was needed on the one hand. And on the other hand, she said that she wanted to not only visit Taiwan, but the region and bring back information to the U.S. House of Representatives. So that's as far as we know right now. We're seeing everything, you know, play out in real time. And yes, there is going to be many high-level visits among Nancy Pelosi and the Taiwanese delegation. What will come out of it, we'll have to wait and see.
Right. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.